The government would never convince you to cut down a shotgun, then proceed to lay siege to your house, taking the lives of your dog, your son, and your wife. Welcome, everyone, to a new series I'm calling You Can Trust the Government, because they want us to trust them, right? I picked Ruby Ridge here as the first story because most people have heard about it, but not many know the finer details and the bullshit cover-ups that were involved. So who was Randy Weaver? A hardened criminal? A violent murderer? Maybe a drug kingpin? The answer is no, he was none of those. He was a 44-year-old former Green Beret with an honorable discharge from the military. He had a family, a wife named Vicky, a son named Sammy, and 3 daughters. On top of all of this, before these events unfolded, he had no criminal record. The only oddities about this entire family are their separatist and religious beliefs, maybe their political beliefs. They basically believed the end of the world was coming, and, that of course means they must be evil, right? So Vicky Weaver has a doomsday vision in one of her dreams. So the Weaver family moved to a 20-acre tract in remote Boundary County, Idaho in 1983. And after this, they of course build their little home, a plywood cabin. This is important later. The Weaver family proceeded to build themselves an off-grid setup. They were subsistence hunters, tenanted gardens. A generator was used sparingly as their only source of electricity. And with no TV, you can see they weren't reliant on the government enough. That's the problem. On October 24th, 1989, Randy Weaver sold 2 shotguns whose barrels had been cut down to 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch shorter than the legal 18 inches. Now, does this make a shotgun more dangerous? If I were to hold the 2 shotguns up next to each other, an 18 inch and a 17 3/4 inch, it'd be pretty hard to even tell the difference. But you see, it's the National Firearms Act of 1934 that determined that short-barreled shotguns were too dangerous, unless, of course, you paid a $200 tax. That's right, it's not even illegal to cut down the barrel of a shotgun. It's illegal to not pay the tax first. And the penalty for missing any other tax payment in the entire U.S. is a 25% penalty. With guns in the NFA, it's 10 years in prison and $250,000. Now, granted, that is the max, but still, you get jail time and $250,000. Randy Weaver sells these shotguns to a good friend who just so happened to turn out to be an informant for the ATF. But the story goes even much deeper. You see, the friend is the one that asked Randy to cut the barrels down to begin with. Not just buy the shotguns as is, no, he wanted the barrels cut down. Randy tells him no on multiple occasions. Now, I have also read that the first time Randy cut them down, they were still too long. But I can't confirm this information, so Mr. Weaver refuses on multiple occasions to cut these barrels down, but finally gives in and sells them to this guy, this friend, that is, of course, an ATF informant on October 24th, 1989. Now, 8 months later, Weaver would get approached by 2 ATF agents with an offer. He was to become an informant, infiltrate the local Aryan Nations, a white supremacist group, and basically be a snitch for them, for the ATF. Or he could go to jail. Those were his choices, of course. Now, Weaver refuses to become a snitch, and oddly enough does not get arrested on sight, but would be indicted 6 months later on the shotgun charges. Now, January 17th, 1991, Randy Weaver and his wife, they're driving to town for supplies. On their way, they encounter a pickup truck with a camper on the bed, and the hood up, a man and a woman seeming to be in trouble. Now, the Weavers, of course, stop to help this couple out, and a horde of federal agents come out of the back of the camper, throwing Vicky to the ground. They must have really seen her as a major threat or something. Randy, with a gun pressed against his neck, is arrested, and he would bond out shortly after. The Weavers would vow to stay on their mountain and not deal with the feds anymore. A hearing was set for Weaver and the shotgun matter for February 20th, 1991. Now, the Weavers were, of course, notified that it would be March 20th, 1991. A month later. Go figure they would go and get the dates wrong, too. Oops. After so many mistakes, you start to think that maybe the feds were doing this shit on purpose, huh? But there's more mistakes to come, of course. Now, Randy Weaver doesn't show for either, of course. So he was indicted for failure to appear. Now, understand at this point in the story, our 2 crimes are unpaid taxes that are the sheer definition of entrapment and a failure to appear. These are such heinous crimes at this point, right? Now, over the next 16 months, the feds would conduct a smear campaign against Randy, with the media never questioning them. Randy himself was now a racist, anti-Semitic, a criminal, an arms dealer, an illegal arms dealer. The Weaver home, it was a bunker, a mountain fortress, a stronghold protected by weapons with ammunition that could pierce armored personnel carriers. The shotguns were weapons of drug dealers and terrorists. On August 21st, 1992, a year and a half of surveillance, aerial footage, agents all over the Weaver property, sniper points picked out, it all comes to a head. Agents dressed in camouflage commandos with two-way radios, night vision, semi-auto handguns, semi-automatic handguns, automatic military rifles, and at least one silenced, full-auto HK submachine gun. They hid in the woods, slowly approaching the Weaver home. One, of course, being a medic, just in case an officer gets injured. The Weaver family dog, a golden retriever by the name of Stryker, was the first to be alerted to the agents. Now, the 14-year-old Weaver's son, Sammy, and Kevin Harris, a friend of the Weavers, chased after Stryker with hunting rifles, thinking he was chasing a deer. The agents fired a burst into Stryker, killing him instantly. The court records would later uncover a plan to take the dog out of the equation. Sammy, a scared 14-year-old that just watched his dog get shot, fired back at the agents and then turned to run. One of the agents answered with another burst and shoot Sammy in the back, killing him. Kevin Harris would then shoot the agent in the chest, killing him. The first firefight ended rather quickly, but of course the ATF told the media that they were pinned down for 8 hours. Now, during the night, Weaver and Harris would bring Sammy's body into a nearby shed. The first firefight would leave Sammy, Stryker, and at least one agent dead. In response to this firefight, soon the FBI, the Marshal Service, the Idaho State Police, local law enforcement, and the Idaho National Guard would get involved. A human piece of garbage by the name of Richard Rogers, head of the FBI hostage rescue team, would get involved, giving orders to his snipers positioned around the Weaver home. If any adult in the compound is observed with a weapon after the surrender announcement is made, deadly force can and should be employed to neutralize the individual. Understand with this order, agents are only supposed to kill someone if their life or someone else's life is in immediate danger. But this order goes on. If any adult male is observed with a weapon prior to the announcement, deadly force can and should be employed if the shot can be taken without endangering the children. Now, up to this point, there had been no negotiators. No one had tried to contact Weaver. This is flat out just a siege. Now, the next day, Randy Weaver, Kevin Harris, and a 16-year-old Sarah Weaver, they leave the cabin and move to the shed that holds Sammy's body. All three are armed, but they are not pointing their guns in any direction whatsoever. Now, the shed that holds Sammy's body. As the three approach the shed, a sniper some 200 yards away shoots Randy in the arm. He also shoots Kevin Harris. From Sarah's recollection of the events, after Randy Weaver was shot, she stood in front of him, was going to force the sniper to have to kill a kid to be able to kill Randy Weaver. Now, the three compose themselves and make a run back to the cabin. Vicky Weaver was waiting at the door with her infant baby in her arms. The sniper fired again, supposedly trying to kill Kevin Harris, but instead kills Vicky, shooting her right in the face. She dies instantly, dropping the infant. The next day, Randy and Sarah would try to yell to agents that Vicky was dead, but they were apparently never heard. The negotiators would then get involved at this point, and they communicated over megaphones, and as Sarah would later put it, they would address Vicky. "Come out, Miss Weaver. How is the baby?" in smart aleck tones. The FBI seemed to not know they had killed Vicky, but at one point it told the media that they were using listening devices to hear everything said in the house. Another lie, I guess. The feds would claim they didn't know Sammy was dead. They only shot twice. Let's do a little math here. We've got Randy Weaver and Kevin Harris both shot. Vicky and Sammy both dead, as well as Stryker, the family dog. But the feds only shot twice. Kevin Harris was the first to leave the cabin on August 30th. Badly wounded, he was rushed to the hospital and charged with murder, because you cannot defend yourself against the government, apparently. The rest of the family came out the next day. The surrender negotiated not by the feds, not by hostage negotiators, but by Bo Gritz, a farmer, war hero in Green Beret. A 36-day trial would follow that uncovered all of the lies and the federal spin control. The jury deliberation lasted nearly 3 weeks. Found Harris not guilty of murder. Weaver was only found guilty of failure to appear and violations of his bail conditions. I know he was also awarded money. The trial itself is so dense it deserves its own video by itself, and I may do that soon. It was full of agent witnesses contradicting each other. Agents found lying on the stand. It was a complete travesty. And the one good thing about this whole story is some justice was found. It doesn't replace a wife that was murdered and a son that was murdered, but at least there was a little bit of justice found here. So everyone, that's the story. Remember, you can trust the government.